Understanding grief and the grieving process. Grief is a part of life. It's a profound and painful natural reaction to the loss of someone or something deeply meaningful and loved. Though much has been written about how we process the significant losses in our lives, grief always remains to feel like an uncomfortable topic. It remains to be taboo as a subject largely misunderstood, unexplored, and ignored in our society. Loss is a part of life, plain and simple. Each and every one of us are born with the uncertainty of not knowing when and how we will die. But we all do know that we will die, and our loved ones around us may die too, before or after us. By its simplest definition, grief is the process that we are all thrown into when we experience a significant loss in our lives. Most of us associate the term with the loss of someone we love, but we can also experience grief through other significant losses, like the loss of a job, loss of a beloved pet, the loss of a significant relationship, a life-changing accident, disability, a diagnosis, your own or someone that you loved, a significant, definite, life-changing transition, end of parenting. While children leave the family home, it does feel like a big loss, retirement, or the end of a career. These are all different layers of grieving as we are grieving the loss of a role we played, significant people in our lives. And it takes a level of processing the loss and recognizing the significant changes in one's life. I always find it interesting that we go to school and we learn so many different subjects. Each and every one of us know that we are born and we will go through a cycle of life where we will die. But in school, we never really talk about death. We never talk about how to grieve, how to process it, how to understand it, or how to come to terms with it. Often in the aftermath of a life-changing loss, when people are experiencing grief, they find people around them uncomfortable most of the time. And people just don't know what to say and how to act around someone who is grieving. Some go as far as politely avoiding them, while others who are really well-meaning tend to offer advice or, add to feelings of isolation by shutting down any possible meaningful conversations because they don't know how to support you when you're grieving. None of us are really taught that. And many of our parents don't know how to role model what to do when somebody's grieving. Many cultures come up with rituals and practices and community-oriented gatherings to support each other. But it's still always an awkward and uncomfortable topic that we don't openly discuss, share feelings around, and understand how do we process this. 5 phases. There is no roadmap or timeline to grieving. In the 1960s, psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, introduced the 5 stages of loss in her groundbreaking book on death and dying. These stages, in customary order, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. These 5 stages most of us know about, but they never follow in sequence, and oftentimes we go back and forth in them. They remain deeply misunderstood and misconstrued. These phases are not a list or prescribed step-by-step process, but they're rather elements of a grieving process. Each and every one of us experience grief and move through grief in our own unique way, in our own time. In other words, there is no correct order or limit to the number of times a person may cycle through one or more of these stages as they grieve. We jump around into different phases. Likewise, there is no ideal or normal timeline when it comes to the grieving process. Each person is unique, and so is our processes of grieving. The more significant the loss, the more we are processing, the more complex, challenging, and prolonged it can be then. We need time to move through our losses, understand what comes up for us, work through our feelings, our experiences, and also our awareness. Many times death and dying brings an awareness to live each day as if it's your last, to also reflect on things that you did in a way that you could have done differently, make you value certain things that you never valued, and maybe even appreciate time differently. Many times after someone is going through a process of grieving, we're expecting them to go back to work immediately, keep moving, get on with their lives. But it doesn't really work that way. Even if some cultures have practices where you have a period of time that you're expected to grieve and then move on. We do need time to move through our pain and loss, process our feelings and thoughts, and we need to step into it consciously and really get to know it. Getting to know grief is about understanding how we experience it, and that's different for each of us. We need to just do that. Feel it, experience it, get to know it, pay attention to our feelings, acknowledge the hard days, and show compassion for ourselves when we feel overwhelmed. At times we may feel unable to cope and need to withdraw from the world, and that's okay. Give yourself permission to do so. We may experience physical symptoms like fatigue, a loss of appetite, craving comfort foods, gastrointestinal disorders, insomnia, or trying to sleep more to escape the world. Whatever your forms of symptoms are, you need to hold them in compassion and allow your body to go through what it needs to repair and get back to a place of normalcy. Our immune systems often can be compromised too, leaving us susceptible to colds, flu, and infections. We may experience a whole range of feelings, numbness, and at times feel as though we're riding through an emotional roller coaster. We may struggle with depression and anxiety, concentration, memory problems, brain fogs. It is important to look at our symptoms and hold ourselves in compassion. A healthy way to move through and forward is to recognize that grief is unique for each and every one of us that experience it, and that each and every person deals and expresses their grief in a different way. As we move through our grieving process, it is important to stay connected with our feelings and acknowledge our pain and struggles. When we grieve, sometimes we want to isolate, hibernate, and stay alone as we go through things, but it is important to stay connected to our friends and family and surround ourselves with people that bring out our compassion, love, and remind us that there are people around us that still love us, support us, and are there for us, even if we're going through a period of loneliness or feeling lack by someone who's left our life. It is important to allow our friends and family to support us, allow them to give us an opportunity to be there and show up when we need it. Don't get me wrong, some of us go through complicated grief. Over time, most people learn to live with their loss and begin to re-engage with the world and find a new way forward in their own life, in their own version of normal. But sometimes, even after a significant period of time, some people really do remain trapped in an intense state of mourning, unable to focus on anything other than their loss. And this is what we call complicated grief. There are many different interventions for people struggling with complicated grief, and speaking to your general practitioner, therapist, loved ones for support is a good way to start beginning to understand where we can get treatment and help for this. The healing power of gratitude is also something to acknowledge. Beyond the support of loved ones and professional interventions, gratitude is very powerful. It's one of those healing tools available to each and every one of us, especially when we're dealing with loss. Dr. Seuss said, "Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened." His often quoted words speak to the healing power of gratitude. To grieve, after all, is to mourn someone we love, someone who has enriched our lives, brought us great joy, and shared the ups and downs with our life. Gratitude works in many, many ways and brings us in the here and now, where we can feel both our sadness and our joy, and we can reflect on good memories. We begin to see grief then as a part of a cherished bond with another person. And instead of focusing on what we lack and are missing, we can focus on what we had and the blessed experiences that enriched and fulfilled our lives. We can begin to appreciate the many ways that this person we love enhanced and informed our lives. We can begin to understand that loss is a part of life, and that the depth of our grief is a measure of the quality and the depth of the connection of our losses. Through the pain of loss, it may never disappear, but we can move forward with our precious memories and the appreciation for the blessings that we have known by having this person in our journey. By having this person touch our lives, bring out all those feelings and emotions, teach us, help us grow, support us, and play an active role in our journey. It is important to focus that the time that we are blessed with this person is wonderful, than to focus on the loss and the lack of them. The love you shared is always present, like a long-distance relationship. Even if the physical body is not around here and now to create new experiences with you, the love is still there. It's a feeling in your heart. And when you think back to who this person was in your life, they come back up with all those memories and pleasant emotions tied to experiences that you had together. When somebody we love is grieving, it is important to encourage ourselves to help them support themselves in grieving, but also to support a close friend means being there for them during a challenging and upsetting period for them. Many of us fear that we may say or do the wrong thing, and we might avoid being around people who are grieving. But those people need distractions, they need support, they need sometimes just comfort. Many times we can't take them away from their grieving, but we can give them a mini break to go for a walk, watch a movie, have a meal, talk about something different, as they may be ruminating and thinking about their grieving over and over and over again. As a result, many people do avoid people that are grieving or try to fix it. There's nothing to fix here. It's just hold them in compassion. Allow yourself to be present for somebody who's in a place that is emotional, confusing, hard, and just needs time to process. Don't avoid talking with someone who is grieving. Even though you don't know what to say, it's important to show up for them, listen to them, and let them know that you're there. Don't exclude people from plans that you would normally include just because they're grieving. Let them know that you would like them to be a part of your gathering, and if they don't feel able to attend, they will tell you. Let people step up in their power to make the choices they need. Don't try to fix their feelings with platitudes. Instead, remember every person's experience of grief is different. Do make yourself available to offer your company and support. Allow yourself to take a break from talking about people's losses and try to find other things to talk about. Mundane subjects, dinner, the weather, friends, hobbies. Engage in activities. Get them active. Our grieving is very complicated, but also simple. Many times during these times, we need a break. We need to slow down, and then we need to be in our ultimate best. It is important for you to hold yourself in compassion by resting, giving yourself permission to rest, and allowing others to rest too. Let's take a mindful moment right now to just breathe and absorb. Thinking about grief. Have you gone through it? Do you not know what to do about it? It's a nice moment for us to reflect right now and just breathe with the topic that we've talked about. It's a topic that is necessary, as each and every one of us will experience death. And it's important for us to know how to walk through grieving ourselves, but also support people we care about as they grieve. Let's take this mindful moment. Take a deep inhale in and breathe out. Another deep inhale in and breathe out. And allow yourself to just take this moment and reflect on grieving. I gently welcome you back from this mindful moment and remind you, moving through grief is important, not only for ourselves, but for us to also support others going through it. It's important to remind people, don't cry because it's over, but smile because it happened. Remember how this person contributed to your life versus looking at the fact that they're not around anymore to contribute. Pay attention to your feelings and hold yourself in compassion. Hold others in compassion. Let's bring in love and compassion, kindness and compassion, and be in a place where we allow ourselves to process whatever comes up, no matter how long we need. Allow yourself to hold yourself in a place of compassion, gratitude, kindness, and space to heal as you need, as each and every one of us are quite unique and go through our own grieving in our own ways, in our own time.